The chandeliers glimmered above like frozen fireworks, casting golden light across a ballroom filled with power brokers, journalists, and heirs to vast fortunes. At the center of it all walked a woman who carried herself with the quiet poise of someone who had fought for every step she stood on. Her name was Maya Thompson, the first black woman to rise from modest beginnings and command the helm of a multi-billion-dollar corporation. This night was supposed to be history in the making. A $500 million deal with the Preston family, one of America's oldest and wealthiest dynasties, was about to be sealed. Cameras were ready, headlines pre-written, champagne chilled. For Maya, this was not just business, it was legacy. But as she entered the glittering arena of privilege, the mood shifted. Smirks spread, whispers spread like smoke, and words laced with contempt slipped from the lips of those who claimed to be her partners. The Preston family, adorned in their arrogance, decided to remind her that in their world, no matter her title, her skin still spoke louder than her achievements. The humiliation began in subtle ways, comments about her dress, her numbers, her worthiness, then sharpened until one final insult, spoken into a microphone, silenced the entire room. It was meant to break her, to put her back in a place they believed she belonged. What no one expected was what happened next. With millions watching, Maya would turn the moment on its head. She would refuse not just their insults but their empire. She would walk away from $500 million and in doing so prove a truth more valuable than any contract, that dignity has no price tag. Maya Thompson was not born into wealth, nor privilege, nor the kind of safety net that cushions mistakes for generations. She was born in a small industrial town where factories groaned like tired beasts and neighborhoods lived paycheck to paycheck. Her father, Leonard, was a factory worker whose hands bore the story of long hours and heavy steel. Her mother, Ruth, worked night shifts as a nurse, moving between exhaustion and compassion in equal measure. From them, Maya inherited resilience and the lesson that hard work could shape destiny, even if the world resisted. At the dinner table, her father often reminded her, "Education is the one thing they can't take from you." And so Maya devoured books with hunger, chasing excellence not just for grades but for freedom. In school, teachers noticed her brilliance, though not always with pride. Some marveled at her discipline and intellect. Others muttered about how she was too ambitious for her background. College counselors suggested community colleges when Maya dreamed of Ivy League campuses. But every doubt became fuel. She earned scholarships, aced entrance exams, and forced doors open that many tried to keep shut. At university, she carried herself with quiet determination, often one of the few black students in her lecture halls. There, subtle prejudice showed its face, peers who questioned whether she was there because of merit or quotas, professors who underestimated her, classmates who excluded her from study groups. Each slight etched itself into her memory, not as scars but as reminders of the world she intended to change. Graduating with honors, Maya moved into the corporate world, where glass ceilings weren't just invisible, they were fortified. She worked twice as hard for promotions given half as freely, endured meetings where her ideas were ignored until repeated by male colleagues, and faced boardrooms where her presence was treated as novelty rather than necessity. Yet she climbed. Slowly at first, then with undeniable momentum. Her breakthrough came when she took leadership of a failing tech firm on the brink of collapse. Where others saw a sinking ship, Maya saw potential. She reorganized teams, streamlined innovations, rebuilt morale, and within 5 years transformed the company into a global leader. Under her leadership, revenues multiplied, patents were filed, and investors poured in. By her early 40s, she was not just successful but iconic, the kind of leader business magazines placed on covers with bold captions like "The Future of Leadership" and "Breaking Barriers." She was invited to speak at conferences, honored at galas, admired by aspiring entrepreneurs across the world. For many, Maya represented possibility, proof that talent and determination could rewrite destiny even in a society stacked against you. The next step in her journey came with the Prestons. The Preston family name carried weight in ways that transcended wealth. They were old money, generations deep in banking, real estate, oil, and politics. Their estates spanned coasts, their names adorned foundations and university wings. To partner with them was to gain not just capital but credibility on a global scale. The deal on the table was historic. A $500 million partnership that would merge Maya's company's technological innovations with the Preston's global infrastructure. It promised access to international markets, research funding, and influence beyond imagination. For Maya, it wasn't about validation, it was about expansion. For her employees, it meant security, growth, and the chance to compete on the world's largest stage. Still, whispers surrounded the agreement. Some wondered how the Prestons, known for their insularity, had agreed to partner with an outsider, especially a black woman who represented everything they had quietly resisted for decades. Others speculated it was purely business, her company was too valuable to ignore. As the night of the signing approached, Maya prepared with care. She rehearsed her speech, ensured every figure in the contract was bulletproof, and selected a gown that balanced elegance with authority. This was not just about her but about every barrier she had broken to stand here. But deep down, she sensed tension. The Prestons had agreed to the deal, yet their tone in negotiations often carried an undercurrent of dismissal, as though they were humoring her success rather than embracing it. Still, Maya believed professionalism and excellence would prevail. What she did not know was that this night, beneath the chandeliers and the smiles, the Preston family would choose arrogance over partnership. And in doing so, they would trigger a chain of events that would echo far beyond the walls of their ballroom. The ballroom gleamed like a palace of privilege. Marble floors reflected the light of golden chandeliers, and walls draped in velvet carried the weight of history. Guests arrived in designer gowns and tuxedos, sipping champagne and exchanging polished small talk. The event was as much about spectacle as it was about business. At the center table sat the Preston family. William Preston III, the patriarch, was a man in his 70s, his white hair combed back like silver threads of authority. His children surrounded him, William IV, sharp-jawed and smug, Caroline with her diamond necklace that glittered as fiercely as her eyes, and Edward, the youngest, whose arrogance seemed to seep through his tailored suit. Their aura was one of entitlement so ingrained it had become invisible to them. When Maya entered the room, it shifted. Conversations paused. Heads turned. Cameras flashed. Her gown, a sleek black design that shimmered under the chandeliers, carried elegance and power. She smiled with grace, shaking hands, exchanging greetings, embodying everything the headlines promised she was. The signing table stood ready, contracts bound in leather, pens engraved with gold. Investors circled, reporters scribbled notes, and employees whispered with anticipation. To most, this night symbolized progress, unity, and the blending of old wealth with new innovation. But for the Prestons, it was a stage to reinforce hierarchy. The first jab came casually. Caroline leaned toward a guest, her voice carrying just enough to be overheard. Such a bold choice of dress for a businesswoman, don't you think? The words were wrapped in politeness but laced with disdain. Laughter rippled among her circle. Moments later, William IV commented during introductions, "Your company's growth numbers are certainly impressive, hopefully they'll hold when real pressure comes." His tone suggested disbelief, as though her success was a bubble waiting to burst. Edward, ever less subtle, muttered to another investor, "It's fascinating how diversity initiatives have reshaped business these days." The implication was clear, her presence was not earned but gifted by some external push. Each comment struck like a stone, small but cutting. And yet, Maya held steady. She knew these tactics well, the attempts to diminish, to provoke, to reduce her presence to a novelty. Her silence was not weakness but calculation. The crescendo came when William Preston III took the stage. He thanked the guests, praised tradition, spoke of legacy. His words dripped with nostalgia for a past where families like his built empires on inherited privilege. Then, turning to Maya with a smile that concealed a blade, he said, "Partnerships are strongest when built on legacy, not experiments." The word experiments echoed across the room. Gasps, nervous laughter, shifting in chairs. The insult was not subtle. He had reduced her company, her entire journey, to an experiment, temporary, replaceable, unworthy of permanence. Maya's face remained calm, but inside a storm brewed. Years of prejudice condensed into this moment, this stage, this insult broadcast before cameras and colleagues. The humiliation deepened during the champagne toast. William IV leaned close, his voice loud enough for microphones. "It's remarkable you've made it this far. But let's see how long you last when the real game begins." His smirk widened as a circle of laughter followed. For Maya, the weight of the night pressed heavy. She thought of her employees, her parents, the young girls who looked to her as proof of possibility. She thought of the billions at stake, the opportunities ahead. But she also thought of dignity, of values, of the message this moment would send to the world if she bowed her head and signed. The stage was set for a choice no one expected her to make. The contract rested on the polished table, its leather binding gleaming under chandelier light. Cameras readied. Guests leaned forward, waiting to witness history. William Preston gestured with confidence, inviting Maya to take her seat and sign. She approached slowly, her heels tapping against marble like a drumbeat of decision. Sitting would mean submission, agreement, and acceptance, not just of the deal but of the insults woven through the evening. Standing would mean risk, defiance, and unknown consequences. Maya picked up the contract, her fingers grazing its edges. She flipped through the pages, though she knew every word by heart. Silence spread like a tide. The room expected compliance. The Prestons expected validation. Then she closed the document. Gasps broke the silence. Reporters straightened in their seats, pens poised. Investors exchanged confused glances. Maya lifted her head, her voice calm, measured, but carrying to every corner of the ballroom. She thanked the Prestons for the opportunity. She thanked the guests for attending. She acknowledged the magnitude of the moment. And then she said words that turned the room upside down. "My company will not be moving forward with this deal. Respect and dignity are the foundation of true partnership, and those are values I will never compromise." The words fell like thunder. The Prestons' smile faltered, their confidence cracking. William Preston's hand tightened on his cane. His children's faces turned pale. Maya placed the contract back on the table, untouched by ink, and turned away. Her gown swept behind her like a banner of defiance. Cameras flashed wildly, recording every step. The humiliation they had intended for her had shifted, landing squarely on them. She walked out not as a defeated outsider but as a leader who had proven that some victories are worth more than money. The fallout was immediate. By morning, every major outlet carried the story. Footage of Maya refusing the deal played on loop. Commentators analyzed her words, her posture, her decision. Social media erupted in admiration, branding her a hero, a symbol of courage in the face of arrogance. Critics predicted disaster, stock collapses, investor flight, lost opportunities. But the opposite occurred. Her company's stock rose as investors who valued integrity rallied behind her. Emails flooded in from corporations around the globe, eager to partner with a leader whose principles matched her business acumen. Employees cheered, proud to work under someone who valued respect above riches. For them, her decision wasn't a loss but a declaration that they mattered, that their leader would not sell dignity for dollars. As for the Prestons, the humiliation was irreversible. Headlines no longer praised their legacy but questioned their arrogance. Think pieces dissected their comments, exposing a dynasty out of touch with the modern world. Their reputation, carefully polished for generations, now bore a permanent stain. In the months that followed, Maya's company expanded anyway. New deals emerged, built not on desperation but on mutual respect. She became not only a CEO but a global icon, invited to speak on leadership, equality, and the courage to walk away. The night that could have broken her instead defined her. It reminded the world that power is not inherited wealth or gilded names. Power is the ability to stand tall in the face of disrespect and say, "Enough." And so the lesson lingered. Progress is not just about winning seats at the table, it is about reshaping the table itself. Sometimes the boldest victory is not in what you gain but in what you refuse to accept. So consider this: if you were in Maya's shoes, would you have had the strength to walk away?